Today, we will be talking about deploying artificial intelligence strategically. I believe that AI is the most powerful technology companies have ever had access to, and it is vital that they use AI strategically. To discuss this topic, I am joined today by David Tareen, who is the Director of Product Marketing at SAS. Hi, David.
Hello, Bernard. Thank you for having me on.
It's such a pleasure to have you. How are you?
Doing fantastic. A little bit earlier in the day here in Cary, North Carolina, where I am, than I suspect where you are. So,
Yeah, no, I'm just north of London. A little later here today. I've almost got this Friday finish work feeling, so it's not much longer to go.
I am
Uh,
just close week I am.
Very good. Maybe you can share with people joining the live stream a little bit more about yourself. So you work for SAS. You are director of marketing. Maybe you can share a little bit about what you actually do and who SAS is.
Yeah, absolutely. So, SAS is a group of folks who focus on data, AI, and analytics. And that spans all types of different industries. So, healthcare, life sciences, manufacturing, government, a lot of diverse set of industries, as well as solution areas. So,
Mm.
including risk, fraud, IoT, and there's a couple of other ones as well. What I really like about my role is that I get to sit with customers from all these different industries from all around the world and talk about what they're thinking and what type of projects they are going to deploy on artificial intelligence. So just getting that those real stories of what some of their challenges are and how different AI technologies can come in and solve them. That's sort of the most interesting part I feel about my job.
Nice, nice. And who is SAS as a little summary, maybe? Anyone who there might be people that haven't heard of SAS yet?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are about 40, little 40 plus year old company, and we're a software company. We are focused again on data and analytics and then getting those analytical models into production. Um, we are led by Dr. Goodnight. He's an icon in the industry, and he's CEO as well as the founder of the company. Before, when we used to be in our offices, we would see Dr. Goodnight every day. I should also point out that he's been recognized as one among the 10 coolest data science and machine learning CEOs, and I think that was by Business Intelligence. So it's pretty cool.
Very cool, very cool. I also want to say hello to everyone joining the stream here. It's nice for people to say hello. As always, let us know where you're joining us from. I've got Sanjeev here joining from India. I've got Amara from Istanbul and Turkey. Amber is saying hello. Someone saying I love the SAS team, which is great. We've got Caroline from Ghana in Africa. Um, so it's great. We've got someone from Serbia, from Bangladesh, from Lithuania. It's good too from Bangladesh. So it's great to have this global audience. As I said, these sessions are always for everyone listening. So if you have any particular questions you want to talk about or us to answer around the strategic use of AI, then please share this with us in the comments, and we will try to answer them. So, David, where do you think we are with AI at the moment, and what's the state of play that you are seeing?
Yeah, I think really good question to start with. So, uh, just from my customer conversations, I feel like we're in a different place with AI this year than we were last year. It feels like the honeymoon is coming to an end. The honeymoon is over with artificial intelligence. I think customers are, and what that really means is that in the past couple of years, the focus from customers has been on let's create the most perfect model, that we can.
Hmm.
And the way the focus has shifted is okay, now I want to see what value AI really delivers to my business. And a lot of times, I think those conversations end up with okay, how can I make better decisions when it comes to artificial intelligence? And when you start thinking about it from a decision standpoint, it starts getting interesting because the question is, what type of decisions do you want to make with AI? Is it the tactical decisions, the small ones, or is it really big strategic decisions? And again, for these customer conversations, I tell them if you want to use AI strategically, then it has to be at every level. And it's not very different than how humans make decisions. So, for example, if you go out and if you want to buy a vehicle, like a car, you would sort of make a decision on how many seats. You would make a decision on if it's a hybrid or if it's a non-hybrid. And based on those more tactical decisions, you end up with a brand, and this is the car I want to buy. Well, AI again is no different. You start making sort of these more tactical decisions in your business that lets you make more strategic decisions. And that's sort of why here at SAS, one of the things that we stand for is we say for you have to break out of AI just being used by the small group of folks. It has to be used by everyone, everywhere to make better decisions in the moment. That's to me, that's really talking about how to use AI strategically, and I think that's where we are from a state of AI in 2021.
Yeah, this is I agree. I think companies are approaching it more strategically. What this is what I'm seeing. They've started that experimenting with AI is all well and good, but now we need to start looking at it a bit more strategically to really figure out how it drives not only better decision making, but also business automation and customer engagement
Yeah.
automation and even monetization to some extent. What do you see as some of the key challenges today when it comes to using AI strategically?
Yeah, good question. So I would say that and I think one of the reasons we have some big challenges is because the market hype around AI has not helped. I think it's done more to confuse customers on the potential of artificial intelligence. So, but the top three challenges in my mind is the first one is selecting a use case. Oftentimes we get customers come in who say, I know this technology can do something for me. I'm not exactly sure what. So let's sit down with you, SAS, and help me understand. I'm in manufacturing, or I'm in healthcare or life sciences. Explain to me what AI can do for them. The way I sort of answer that question is don't just think about things that you've never done before and try to create use cases for AI. Just think about the things that you do in your business today. If you're a bank and you're making loans, that's potentially a really good use case for AI. Start to make better decisions there. If you're a manufacturer, let's figure out how AI can help you reduce costs, reduce waste
Mm.
by finding manufacturing defects. And these are real customers that we work with today on these use cases. So I think that's the first one, figuring out the use cases where you can apply AI. Um, the second big issue, and I'll give you a total of three. The second big issue is transparency. And what that really means is if I'm a business and I want to deploy artificial intelligence to start making decisions, I want to explain those decisions. I want to explain why my algorithm made that decision. I'll give you one example. If I'm a bank and making a loan to, say, I'll pick on you, Bernard, making a loan to a customer named Bernard Marr who lives, just close to London, and they have a financial profile. They're asking for a specific amount of loan. Well, you have another customer with a very similar profile who live kind of in the same location that you do, asking for the same amount of loan.
Mm.
Well, what if your algorithm approves Bernard Marr for the loan, but it declines the other customer? Well,
Mm.
you want to be able to explain that because if you cannot explain it, not only is it a customer satisfaction issue, it also becomes an ethical issue. So getting transparency and managing it is really, really critical for businesses. The and the last piece, the third one, is operationalizing AI. And really, what that means is, for a long time, AI and these models have sort of been in sandboxes, and you build a perfect model, and it's great. Oftentimes, our customers tell us that it takes me 3 months or 2 months to go from building a model to deploying the model. And by the time I get the model into production, the model is not making the decisions it was making during the testing phase. So I think to me, again, those are some of the biggest challenges, which is selecting the right use cases for AI, making sure that whatever decisions you make are transparent, and then also that there is not a lot of lag time from when you train your model to when you deploy your model.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with all the 3 points you've just mentioned. So for me, the biggest challenge actually is the first one you've mentioned, not really approaching it strategically. So what I see, or what I've seen, is that during the big hype when AI first came on the scene, companies were experimenting with AI left, right, and center. They were using chatbots and they're automating this and doing that, and actually the most important one is actually to figure out what use cases to go for that are based on your strategy. And in some cases this actually means having a good look at your strategy and actually revising your strategy, because I've worked with so many different companies on their data strategy and AI and digital transformation strategies, and what I see is that sometimes your strategy might be out of date. So you need to also rethink your strategy, but then really closely align the use cases with your biggest strategic challenges and opportunities. And then you need to start thinking about scaling it and going beyond pilots. And for me, actually, if you start from the beginning thinking about how can I scale this in the future, how can I operationalize it for real, it will make a big difference in how you approach the project. And obviously, transparency and explainable AI is a massive trend
I'm with
and
you.
massive challenge.
I'm with you. I'll love to tell you a story about one of our customers who did kind of sort of what you were describing. They were a manufacturer.
Mhm.
So one of the things that they wanted to do, it was interesting, just their quality control process was absolutely fantastic, but they knew they could do a little bit better. What they were doing is they were manufacturing products in batches of like 1 million products, right? So it was a significant cost for them. All their quality checks would come in at the finished product level. So they would do a sampling, but because the product was critical, it was a healthcare product, if they come across a certain number of defects in those samples, they would throw away the entire batch. That's 1 million products that are wasted. It's a lot of cost. It's a lot of waste as well. So one
Mm.
of the things that I really liked about the way this customer approached it is they said, we're not just going to implement AI, and they were focused on computer vision throughout the manufacturing process to see how if the products at every stage were meeting quality requirements. They said we're also going to rethink the way we do quality. So we're not just going to, the quality folks aren't going to just come in at the end when the product is finished, but they're going to do it every step of the way. And by doing that, instead of having to throw away 1 million products because of the quality issues, they ended up getting rid of just 20,000 products. So significant improvement in cost, significant less wastage for the environment.
Mm.
Well, good example of someone really thinking about AI strategically.
Yeah, great example. So from your perspective, you talk to lots of different customers that are exploring AI, that are implementing AI. What is stopping companies from using AI strategically? And do you have any, maybe can you share with us any good examples of companies that have addressed some of those challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think using AI strategically, and we believe that gives you a competitive advantage, a lasting competitive advantage. So, there's value there. I think my sort of, again, we'll go with my David Tareen's top three big challenges of what's stopping companies. The first I would say is silos of AI solutions. And 5 years ago, I would have answered the question to say silos of data. And largely our customers either have solved it or they are on their way to solving
Mm.
these silos of data. But now I think the challenge is silos of AI point solutions. So for example, if I'm a CIO and I am serving 10 different business units in my company, well, each business unit, if they deploy their own AI point solution, oftentimes what happens is that you start losing control very quickly.
Mm.
And you start exposing yourself to maybe some privacy issues, some issues around transparency that we talked about earlier, some issues around data bias and things like that. So you want to be able to, at some point, CIOs will have to sort of pull back and centralize a lot of their AI solutions. But what that means is, again, they have to have a solution that is diverse, that can do computer vision, that can do natural language, that can do machine learning and deep learning and forecasting and optimization. So because the business units are going to need diverse type of solutions. So I think the first impediment really is these silos of AI solutions being implemented in different business tools.
Mm. Yeah, this is what I'm seeing too. So this data silos, technology silos, different technological approaches, legacy systems, they're all big challenges. But for me, actually, probably the technological challenges is something you can address as a business. There are solutions out there. I can now come to SAS and buy your latest product, get a great platform, and can start pulling the data into one nice data lake and start using it to do great things all in the cloud. However, for me, what some of the even bigger barriers is actually leadership and skills in the organization. Where do you see that too?
That was actually my third one, so you're absolutely right. I think for there is a culture change that has to happen. It's not a big culture change. I think it's sort of getting better understanding of what this technology is, and being able to be transparent in communicating some of the different areas that you're using artificial intelligence. That becomes absolutely key. And that's where good leadership and strong leadership steps in. Transparency is important in a different sense that we talked about transparency earlier. We talked about model transparency, but what we're here really talking about is being transparent about where we're going to deploy this technology inside the company, what are the limitations, and how it changes some of the roles that people play today. So I'm with you completely. That's sort of my third one. Um, the second one in my mind, so we talked about sort of silos of AI solutions. We talked about the culture. To me, the third one is sort of almost divorcing yourself from being enamored by a single AI capability. We have to start thinking about artificial intelligence as a set of tools rather than just one technology.
Mm.
Oftentimes we have conversations around, hey, I love computer vision. I think I can use computer vision. Or, I run a call center. What can I do with natural language? Well, I think if you start to approach it in a different way, and on what decisions are you trying to make and how we can make those decisions better, I think it just gives you a richer experience. I often tell my customers that you can't build a house with a single hammer. You have to
Mm.
have a different and varied set of skills and tools. AI
Mm.
is no different. If you want to build a business solution, it's going to require multiple different types of tools.
Yeah, completely agree. Just having a little look through the stream. We've got Francisco from Mexico joining. Hi, Francisco. Suli from Trinidad saying hello. We've got Natasha from Toronto in Ontario. We've got Ken from Washington, D.C., and Rabi from Belgium. Really good to have everyone on the stream. As I said, if you have any specific comments, questions, feel free to take part in this. Harold is saying hello from Germany. Um, and Louisa saying thanks for this live, watching it from Londonderry in New Hampshire in the US. Great. Um, so some of the challenges are around data, around technology, around culture, around skills. So what should a good AI implementation look like from your perspective?
Yeah, good question. So, to me, a good AI implementation starts with a question, as simple as that. You have to be able to um, define a business problem, and oftentimes it's the most popular workflow that you're using. Again, if you're an insurer and you're servicing insurance claims,
Hmm.
question will be how can you do those faster, better, cheaper, and with better customer experience. So I think starting with the question and defined business problem is always step number one. Step number two is data. All these projects start with data, and that's an excellent place to start. And I'll give you an example of one of our customers, Volvo. It's a brand that needs no introduction. A lot of folks who know who Volvo is, and in this case, they do a lot of really cool things. In this case, they were manufacturing large vehicles, large trucks, and they wanted to sort of understand how can they make a prediction that a certain vehicle is going to need maintenance before something actually happens. So I commend them because they're focused on data, and they used IoT sensors. They were collecting environmental data, humidity levels, engine temperature. Again, I commend them on sort of having such a big focus on data because it's the lifeblood of a lot of these projects. One advice that I always give my customers is you can go off and buy data. Absolutely. There's a lot of data marts you can go off and buy data, and you can come up with some predictions very, very quickly. But if you want to create a competitive advantage, think about using your own data that no one else has access to. So if you're running a call center, you probably have transcripts of what your customers are telling you. There is so much insight by using natural language processing. You could understand what all those customers are saying. So data is absolutely step number two. The third step then is the modeling piece. So now you've got a data, now you want to learn something from that data. And to me, a good AI implementation there, think about diversity. Diversity is a good thing when you're thinking about models. Use SAS models, use Python models, use R models, use SQL queries to get an understanding of decisions, and even use a combination of all of this. One of our tools, SAS gives you the ability to sort of combine all of these different types of models that I just mentioned. So modeling is really the next step. And then the last piece is just deploying. Once you think of an employee, when you hire an employee, you want them to make better and better and better and better decisions as they learn more about the work that they are doing. I think models are similar as well. When you deploy a model, you want to make sure that the performance is not going to degrade. So the last step really is monitoring your models in production to make sure that they're making good decisions, ethical decisions, and decisions that are going to optimize your business. So again, just very quickly, sorry I was verbose. Starting with the right question, looking at the type of data, combine your own data if you can. The modeling piece, diversity is a good thing when it comes to models, and then make sure you are monitoring your models once they are deployed. To me, that's a really cool AI solution.
Yeah, no, I love it. And for me, actually starting from a very clear strategy, identifying your questions is important. Then I think it's also really important. Everything you've said is complete. I completely agree with. But I think it's also really important to have a really good stakeholder engagement process. So you communicate to everyone in the organization why you are implementing AI and what that means. And to some extent, putting the employees in the driving seat to make sure that they see AI as something that will make their business more successful and help them in the long run. I still feel sometimes that people are scared of AI and they're scared about their jobs and what this could mean. So really strong communication and engagement is really important to discuss all of those fears that are very real and what this will mean for the business in the long run. And
Agreed.
absolutely true. Using your own data is always better because you have the opportunity to create a competitive advantage somehow. But I also think combining your in-house data with external data sometimes can be even more powerful. So if you start with your own data, but then you pull in external data that can make it even more valuable. If you only rely on external data, of course, this won't get you anywhere or potentially you can, but not in the long run because anyone can access this data. But if you start with your own data, I agree that's a very good starting point. Very, very true. Here's one question. Can AI be implemented even if staff haven't got the a solid talent in all of this? And what about external consultants? Do you have a view on this, David?
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that question. The simple answer is yes. My advice on sort of how to go about that is there's lots of organizations, definitely SAS has services, consulting services that you can use. Take a look inside your organization, and if you feel that there is not the right level of talent, then I would say lean more on consulting services. However, I will tell you that just the nature of AI, there are people who are curious and they want to learn. So very quickly, what we've seen customers do of all sizes, small customers, large customers, is they start developing those in-house skills. Maybe they take some SAS courses, some SAS education courses and things like that, or other skills that they develop, and then you can start moving on to more and more complex type of challenges. So those first questions, if you don't have the in-house skills, those questions have to be simpler, and you can lean on consulting services from folks, but very quickly build up your own talent so you can take on some of those more challenging problems.
Yeah, I very much agree. And I think a very similar question here. What should be the first steps to implement AI in an organization that is not familiar with it? Where should it be staff and so on? Where do you start? Do you start with applications? Do you set goals? Do you have a holistic approach? So any responses to this question?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's a good question. So, if you're not familiar with AI, I would say pick a smaller, more easier, well-defined problem that has a data set that you're very comfortable
Mm.
with. I don't know I don't know everyone's experience in the world, but every time I go to my boss and I ask for a lot of resources, usually the answer is no. I think just starting off with a limited problem with a good data set and small resources is a great place to start. And then you can always build up on it. As soon as you have that skill, it's not difficult to start scaling out. And it's a really interesting journey. A lot of customers have gone through that journey. I'll tell you a quick example of one customer. So, again, we say first comes a question, then data, then analytics. So this customer was sort of moving on their journey with us. So they had a couple of areas that they wanted to explore, and we were in the data phase. And let's gather the data.
Mm.
And they came back after a month and they wanted another engagement. So we sat down with them. We said, okay, are you ready for the next step, which is analytics? Let us show you all the models. Let us show you what models can do, predict. And they were like, no, 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 stop. I want to stay in this data phase. Because they were finding out literally that they could save 40 million US dollars. I apologize to the international audience here. They were saving 40 million US dollars every quarter just by understanding the price by which they were selling their products and the price by which they were acquiring these
Mm.
products. It was a data problem for them. And once they solved that data problem, contractually, they found out that their suppliers owed them a lot more money. So they
Mm.
said, we want to stay in this data side right now. We're not ready to move on because we're getting returns here. But very quickly, they did move on to the analytics space. It's an exciting journey, even if you do not have the right skills. I say limit the size of the problem and then start your journey.
Yeah, and this is something I see too. I think it has never been easier for organizations to start AI projects, and sometimes companies come to me and say, "Okay, we don't really understand AI. Can you help us? Where do we start? Do we need to recruit people? Do we get external consultants in to help us?" And I think the starting point should be to really figure out what are your key business challenges, and then think about, can you use tools like AI to address some of them?
Right.
And very often I do so many executive leadership sessions where I work with boards of major companies to just help them understand what the latest evolutions of some of these technologies are, and what
Right.
how could they potentially use them in their industry. And I think having these regular eye opener sessions is quite important, and you don't need anyone for this nowadays. There are so many free open courses. There are obviously LinkedIn lives that we do
Right.
here. There are YouTube channels like the one I have, where I try to communicate as much insights as I can. So there's so much free information out there that gives people some insights. And then for me, what is making this all so easy today is the fact that we now have artificial intelligence as a service. So it's not, I don't need to have all the skills in house. I don't need to have technology in house. I simply use it. And then we have so much what I call hidden AI already being applied in organizations. So if I have an HR system or finance system, all of these providers that provide these solutions are building AI into those processes to automate more and more. So I think sometimes companies come to me and say, okay, we don't know anything about AI. And then you point out, actually, you're using AI here and you use it in your automated marketing and you use it in your automated financial consolidation and so on.
Absolutely. And this now, I think that starts to speak to the future of AI, where, sort of what you talk about, AI as a service. I almost think about it as a question as a service. So got if you want to forecast something, if you want to figure out which customer set to target, if you're thinking about risk, then you should be able to simply in technology fire off an API
Mm.
with that question and be able to come back with an answer. But that answer has to have some guarantees with it that it is free of bias, that it is explainable, and it will, protect the privacy of your data. But that is really where I believe we are going with artificial intelligence in the future. My
Very, yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Anyone listening to us live, feel free to let us know what you think about this session. Let us know if you have any questions, comments. Please engage with us, so we are actually listening, interested in all of this, and hopefully give us some more food for discussion. David, maybe you can share with us some really good best practice examples of strategic AI use cases, um, maybe across some of your customers, some of the best practices you have seen that illustrate that organizations are actually doing this well today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my favorite topic. That are the customer stories, quite frankly, is where it's at. Just the curiosity of some of these customers lead to some really, really cool stories. I'll tell you some of my favorite ones. So, this customer was essentially operating a call center, and every business has call centers. And I really loved sitting down and talking to this customer because this is something very interesting. They said, right now, we have about 10,000 calls coming in every day. And once, these are service tickets that if customers have problems with our service, they can call in and we help them. And right now, we are able to go back and audit about 4 or 5% just because of the volume. And we manually listen to what the customer said, look at the transcript, and see if we handle this customer the right way.
Mm.
Instead, we're missing 95, 96% of what our customers are telling us. We want to hear everyone. We want to hear every voice. And those words really stuck with me, and that's why it's one of my favorite stories. So we implemented for them a natural language based solution. And it was really cool because now if a customer calls in and they say, hey, I'm in this, I think you said one of the viewers here was calling in from Germany. So if they say, hey, I'm in the city of Dresden, I'm at the Starbucks, and I'm watching a football match, and I'm having some audio quality issues. Well, now the NLP system automatically knows that Dresden is the city, that Starbucks is the location, that football match is the program, and the quality issues that they were seeing was, X, Y, and Z. So automatically
Mm.
understanding that, automatically logging that improved their customer experience.
Mm.
Now they get to a consistent service no matter which customer is calling in. And the net result was that they were able to sort of surface all this information in the dashboard and be able to make decisions again on where to improve their network. So again, I thought it was a really cool use case, being able to use natural language to really improve customer centricity. And I thought it was using AI really strategically just because the diverse set of tools that they were using within this solution.
Very good. Maybe you can give us a few other best practice examples in a minute. Just saw this comment by
Yeah.
Patricia here saying, "Super webinar, thanks. Love the 4 steps of AI strategy or the journey: question, data, modeling, and deployment." So thank you very much for your kind comment. um, so, any other good best practice examples that you see?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, go on and on, but I'll share one more. And this one I want to be a little bit careful about. It's in life sciences, and it's on the topic of cancer. And that's the reason I want to be a little bit careful about this because there's a lot said about AI and cancer. But where at least our experience is how our customers, and as many of our customers in life sciences and healthcare who are using AI, but they're using artificial intelligence to better understand how cancer is progressing. So, yes, you can use AI to detect cancer, early diagnosis, and a whole bunch of things. But I can unequivocally tell you that where most of our customers have implemented AI right now is better understanding how this disease is developing. So, largely, these customers are using computer vision. So they will take a look at digitized CAT scans, and the AI has been trained to spot nodules and lesions in
Hmm.
a specific organ, like for example the liver. And once they've done that, now next time when that patient comes in, they're able to see if there's a change in the density and the shape and the size of the lesion that was there previously. It's a very cognitively difficult process for the human brain to do it. It's very quick for the AI to do it and do it with a lot more accuracy. So I thought those use cases are really interesting. One of our customers I'll call out as sort of taking a more strategic approach to it because they said, yeah, we can do that and we can get to a better outcome for our patient. But what if we combine now natural language processing through it? We said, well, what do you have in mind? They said, well, we want to get an understanding of what medication this customer was using. What's their family history? Where's their geographical location? Any data we can get on diet, on their diet, and a whole more rich set of information. And I would really love the quote from this customer. They said, and I think this is a quote that's used pretty often in the medicine field, but they said, I want to look at the whole patient. It's great that we can use computer vision to better understand what's going on with this one part, but I want to step back and look at the whole patient. And to me, that's using AI strategically because you're not focused on just computer vision. You are focused on the problem, in this case, a patient, or what that patient is going through, and then taking an innovative approach using AI to solve that problem. Really, really cool story.
Yeah, very, very. It's such an important topic and such a good use case of AI. So, thank you for sharing this. Um, Louisa is asking a question. Let me pull this up here. She's saying, "Hi, for someone re-entering the workforce after a few years away, what skills are needed to be familiar with AI?" Have you got any advice for Louisa?
Absolutely, Louis. A great question. If I were in this situation, what I would be doing is, and that's one of the positive things around AI as well, that you have different types of skills that are needed throughout the 4 step journey that we just talked about. So if you have an affinity towards sort of understanding data, getting into data and understanding how that works. If you are interested in removing things like bias from data, then there's there's things that you can do to start managing data and perhaps on your way to becoming a data scientist or data engineer. Now, if you're more interested in prediction, in the modeling piece, then I think machine learning is a really good place to start because all these advanced capabilities, such as deep learning, such as computer vision, such as natural language, they are all in the future going to be built on machine learning. So I think that's a really good core skill set to have. So again, the different types of skills, many people have combined those skills, but if I were to start, I would pick data engineer, data scientist, and get some skills around machine learning as well. That's what I would do.
And I think we said this before. There's so much material out there that you can now access for free. Lots of vendors have their own little, universities. There are lots of big online providers like Coursera and Udemy that provide free or very affordable courses. And many of them are introduction courses. So you can actually look at some of those courses to get a sense of where you would like to specialize. But this for me is a very good starting point. Um, an earlier question, which I can't find now, was on the use of AI in supply chain. Do you have any examples there, David?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. In supply chain, a lot of the um, and actually this is one of my one of the really cool stories. Um, when it comes to forecasting supply chain, and forecasting is a pretty well understood discipline. Customers have been doing forecasting for quite some time. You know, whether you're forecasting raw material that go into supply chain or finished goods, right? And a lot of the customers that are doing forecasting are using either naive models or ARIMA models. Those are traditional approaches. We had a customer come to us and say, um, I operate at such scale that if I can just improve my forecast even a little bit, then that's going to be materially significant for me. So help me understand if AI can help. So he said, well, one good thing that AI is really capable of is finding trends within data that you do not see. If you see if your forecaster sees a trend, they can plan for that trend. But what about all those trends that you're not seeing, right? So we started using machine learning on their data set to come up with a forecast. And then we compared it with some of their traditional approaches. The really cool aha moment was a pure machine learning approach did not yield the best forecast. A pure traditional approach didn't yield the best forecast. When you combine both of these together, that ensemble time and again got you the best forecast, and it shaved off a small percentage but a huge amount of dollars for this customer. So it again goes back to diversity is a good thing when you're thinking about making predictions and models. Look for tools that will allow you to compare SAS models and R models and all these different type of models, ensemble them together. Oftentimes that'll get you a much better result.
Very good. Yeah, great example. There was one other question here saying we talked about the use of AI in cancer, but has AI been utilized in COVID vaccine rollout in the process of all of this? Um, and yes, I think it is being used all the time, especially around understanding the pandemic, rolling it out, the whole logistics around it. I was recently talking to DHL and their chief technology officer, which actually is a video you can watch on my YouTube channel, where we talked about this massive undertaking of rolling this out. And next Wednesday, I have another really good LinkedIn Live coming up with DP World, another major logistics company, where we talk exactly about this topic, how AI and technology is used to help with the role of vaccine. So do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the work that we are doing today and the work that we did in 2020, starting 2020, was around COVID, SAS specifically. We had customers who wanted to now make predictions on hospital beds and
Mm,
usage. That's a big plan for it. So we used a lot of machine learning AI tools there extensively. We had customers, a lot of the clinical trials that happen with the vaccines, but clinical trials that happen on other drugs as well. They use artificial intelligence from SAS. So I would say, Bernard, everything that you said, it was pervasive, and you can almost think of every aspect of this fight against COVID, and AI was used extensively in a lot of those different phases.
very good. So looking ahead then, what are some of your future predictions? If you now put your futurist hat on and saying in this world of AI and data science that we've talked about today, what what are your predictions? What do you see ahead of us?
Sure, sure, absolutely. So, what I would say that my top three, again, three's the number apparently today for me. The first one is, and again, if you're looking for developing skills, I think this would be a good one, is natural language processing is going to be big in my mind. And natural language processing, really what that means is being able to automatically categorize and summarize and understand sentiment of people, right? There is so much just written word, spoken word out there that you could really take that and do something with it. Here's my prediction. I think that knowledge workers, if you are an architect, if you are flying an aircraft, if you are sort of working on insurance, knowledge workers will be using digital assistants to help them, just beyond what Alexa, and others assistants can do. You will have knowledge workers will have assistants specific to their field who will help them use natural language processing to help them with their tasks. So that's David Tareen's first prediction. The second one in my mind is automation will be everywhere.
So
And
what? Sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
what I missed this. So what, the second point was what?
The second one is that automation will be
Yes.
everywhere, and automation in two different categories. First is automatically creating AI algorithms and selecting the best algorithms. So that's sort of internal, right?
Mm.
The second one is automating your workflows.
Mm.
So, there's billions of workflows in this world. When you send a company an email, when you call into a call center, when you visit their website, some kind of workflow is getting kicked off. Right now, those workflows follow just basic rules. I think you will start to automate better decisions within those workflows, and that goes back to sort of that transparency element of AI that you were talking about. You won't even know that it's there, but it's making better decisions on your behalf. So that's number two. I think the most exciting one for me, number three, and it's best if we keep hype out of this third one and we look at it more practically. But it is the fact that AI will be able to operate, an algorithm will be able to operate across different domains. Let me explain very quickly what that means to me. It means humans do this very, very easily, intuitively. We learn about one topic, and then we can apply what we have learned to a completely different area. My 7-year-old will look at a table, and she'll say, "That's a table." I can work on it, but then she'll also say, "It's a place to hide. It's a place to have some fun." I can play hide and seek behind it. I can get on top of the table. I can jump over. The human mind intuitively can take one piece and apply it to a different data domain. If you use a complete object detection on the table, it's going to say that's a table. But where we are going is that sort of intuitiveness and AI being able to say, I can learn, use some data to to train my model and apply it to something completely different. That's getting us closer to what the industry, a little bit overhyped, calls general artificial intelligence. But in the next 5 years, I feel we're definitely cross those domains. And the reason why I think it's important is because once you're able to do that, that intuitiveness and the AI's ability to handle massive amounts of data, that has tremendous potential for healthcare, for life sciences, and medicine, and nuclear physics as well, solving the world's energy problems, right? So those are my three. The reason I feel confident about them, Bernard, is because we're talking with our customers today
Mm.
about these capabilities. We're having advanced conversations here at SAS on how our customers can do that on VIA. 3 years ago, we were talking about some of the things that are the stories that I was telling you today. They're now implemented. So the things that we're talking about with our customers today, it will be implemented tomorrow. So I feel pretty excited about the future here.
Wonderful. So anyone watching us, listening to this, let us know what you think. Share your comments, share your views. David, if anyone wants to find out a little bit more about some of the things you've talked about this, or about what you talked about, or if they wanted to connect with you, how can they best do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Please do. I love hearing from everyone, especially if you've got some ideas, you have some ideas on how AI can help you. Would love to hear from you. Always reach me on LinkedIn. A good place to start, I would say, is sas.com/AI. That will help you, sort of understand the different elements a little bit more on the journey that we talked about. Start with a question, data analytics, and decisions. And yeah, I would say SAS.com/AI selfishly is a great place to start.
Very good. Okay, go to sas.com slash AI to find out more. Follow David Tareen on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for joining us. Anyone who wants to ever re-listen or re-watch any of these conversations, you can head to my YouTube channel where you can watch them, or you can subscribe to my podcast where this episode will be available alongside many others. Thank you very much. You all have a great weekend. Speak to you soon.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.